Why, hello there. Welcome. Come, get yourself out of the bad weather and join us for another rainy day reading. I'm your host, Walter Holliger, and today I'm joined by Stephanie Gatchell. How are you doing, ma'am?
Pretty good. Could do without all of the snow and the cold, but that's okay.
Oh, now you just rub it in my face. I'm natural-born Floridian. I've never seen snow. And
come up here to Massachusetts, then you'll see plenty of it.
I'd love to. Like, I'm always very envious of those kids movies where they're all playing in the snow. It's serious envy.
Here's the thing: once you experience a New England winter, you'll immediately want to go back to Florida. You will hate it forever.
Understood. We also have Megan R. How are you doing, ma'am?
Excellent, although I do agree with Stephanie, even as an Iowan, it's like, winter sucks. Believe me, if you experienced it, you wouldn't want it anymore.
Yeah, you only need to experience it once and then you're done. You're like, I'm out.
See, the sad thing is, I once spent a winter up in New Jersey, but it didn't snow once while I was up there.
Oh, and you got lucky.
Shut up! Like, I wouldn't be, envious if I experienced it once. God damn it. So speaking of water falling from the sky, our manga has to deal with water that is already in the ocean and not falling from the sky. I have no idea where I was going with this. This is...
Segue!
Now, I have a better segue. So today on the Manga Podcast, we're going to talk about Satoshi Kon. What the fuck? This is Tropic of the Sea. So, Satoshi Kon, the paranoia agent, paprika, perfect blue, millennium actress guy. He started out doing manga, and today we're going to talk about one of his manga. And it's all about loving the ocean and how corporations are evil. And
mermaids.
Yes, mermaids. But before we get into Satoshi Kon, we of course need to ask the favorite little question here on the show. We're going to start with you, Megan. What have you been reading lately?
Well, I've been reading something I've been searching for basically as long as I've been making manga reviews. Because I always swore to myself, someday I would find that one magical harem series that didn't suck ass. And I think I finally found it.
With Diabolic Lovers.
No!
I'm about to say, a harem series that does not suck ass. That's a very tall order, you realize.
Oh, I'm perfectly aware of it, but I think I finally found it. And again, amazingly, it's from Seven Seas. It is a series called My Monster Secret. Actually, I Am, which is a literal translation of the Japanese
I've talked
title.
about this before!
By Eiji Matsuda.
I think Jonathan was the one who talked about the series during seasonal reports, if I remember right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I talked about it before.
Jonathan.
I think it was... Oh, what was the episode we did with Joe?
Mm.
Yeah, it was either Jonathan or Danny who might have covered it during seasonal anime reviews. Can't remember who it was. But the name sounds familiar.
So the whole concept is there's this guy named Asahi, and he cannot keep a secret to save his life. Total lack of poker face, complete inability to save any secret. So it's totally obvious to his best friends when he's totally crushing on this girl in his class named Yuko. And he goes to confess his love, as you do in these sorts of series, only to find her stretching out her wings and talking, oh, it's so nice to let my fangs out. Because she's a vampire, of course. Oh yes, this is a Monster Girls book. But, unlike Monster Musume and that lot, it's not a total perv fest. So Asashi agrees to keep her secret because otherwise she'd have to leave school. And it basically just kind of snowballs from there. Not only there are other girls who are secretly supernatural creatures at his school, there's a friend of his named Mikan. And she is basically the worst person ever. She's the editor of the school newspaper, and she lives for two things: gossip and making people miserable. And Asashi is her best source. So she just follows him around, desperate to find out what's going on with him, and he struggles his hardest to keep the secret. And it's genuinely funny, which is a weird thing to say about a harem series. They usually aren't. It's like they're actual jokes, and it's not just boy falls into boob jokes. It's so novel. It's kind of scary.
It's not just a jam crotch fest. If you've seen
Yes.
Sky Wizards Academy, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, and I also really like the art. The art has an almost old-fashioned quality to it. There's just something about these big, rubbery faces and expressions that I really like. It's and yet it's also incredibly innocent at the same time. It's so charming, and I'm not used to saying that about a harem series.
Oh my god, I think the world is ending.
I know!
Megan has found a harem series that she likes.
I know!
Oh god!
You see, here's the thing though. I'm sitting here smiling because I've brought this up before. I guess you don't remember, Megan, but I've brought this series up before. I think under its Japanese title on Radio Reading. And I remember your words. It was, oh, it's one of those series with its very overreactional comedy. I'm not a fan of those. So, yeah. What do you got to say now?
What episode was that?
I think it was, it must have, I remember we did an episode, it must have been, I don't know, I can't remember what, I'd have to go through and re-listen to it, and I can just open up the editing projects and look and see which one I put the image over, so, I don't know, I'll bring that up on Twitter, but...
Well, I guess, then the joke's on me then, because, yeah, you're right, I totally love this, and I really hope it stays as charming as the series goes on, because this is new and wonderful for me.
I know. I'm like 100 chapters deep in this series, and I still love it.
You've gone so far in the rabbit hole at this point.
Oh yeah, I'm far down this rabbit hole.
So yes, there is that's technically good two Monster Girls series out there because a Centaur's life still exists. But this is good. This is another one that proved that not all of Seven Seas Library is pure garbage.
True, very true. And if you're a complete pervert like me and Jonathan, there are 3 series, and that includes Monster Musume.
I'll admit, I enjoyed Monster Musume in the anime series. I will fully admit that. And
the series is not the manga.
Well,
there are two big differences on each girl.
I know, but my main point when I say that was like, doing the season reports in Monster Musume, I was doing second opinions on it, and Jonathan was like, holy shit, she actually likes this piece of garbage like I do? I'm like, I absolutely do.
So let's see, that's Monster Musume, that's Prison School. Let's just face it, Stephanie, you're a female pervert on this site.
I am total and complete trash. I am such a perverted piece of trash.
And we all love you for it.
Huzzah.
So, speaking of which, Stephanie, Megan, have you finished?
I'm done.
Cool. Stephanie, what have you been reading?
Oh, Lord. Or at least tried to read. Let's see. Because, as everyone knows, I tend to be busy with 20 million things.
It's okay. We know, we have brought it up before that the seasonal people are illiterate bastards, so you can feel free to talk about whatever you need to fill time.
Well, I guess the last thing I've been at least trying to read and get through, because I've been getting more manga on my shelf and I need to read it. I've actually been trying to get through more of Tokyo Ghoul. I read the first volume over the summer. I had first gotten it, and I started slowly going through the second volume. But the last time I read it was several weeks ago, and then I was like, shoot, I have to read Tropic of this day. I gotta put that on hold. But I've been trying to read it on and off when I can, when I'm not busy. But Tokyo Ghoul, it's one of my, in terms of the anime specifically though, it was one of my favorites from, when did the first season come out? 2014? Yeah. 2014. And my friend Megan, not this Megan who's here right now, another Megan, she's been at me for ages to read the manga. Particularly Re, which is the sequel manga. So, I've been trying to slowly work my way through, and since Viz has been releasing them, I have up to volume 4 now. But I think volume 5 is now been released, as of this point. But, like, something that I'm always interested in, whether it's not just Tokyo Ghoul, but, like, between anime and manga in general, is seeing what's different between the two. Like, what the manga had originally, and then seeing what the anime did and did not do. So, some of the differences in Tokyo Ghoul rather big. One being, and I haven't even reached this point, but I, like, glanced through my other volumes, Because in the anime series, they took the gourmet arc with Tsukiyama with his introduction, and they put it smack dab in the Dove arc. But in chronological order, what it is it's the Dove arc before the gourmet arc. I think Volume 3 is the Dove arc mostly, and then Volume 4 is the gourmet arc for the most part. So that's one of the larger changes, at least in terms of Season 1. And then there's a few things here and there. Small things. Like, in the first volume, Kaneki and Hide, they go to this burger joint. Oh god, I forget the name of it.
I know what you're talking... Yeah,
Big
it's
Girls,
like...
I think it's called.
Something like that.
Something like that, and I'm like, this is not in the anime. This is a fun, lighthearted moment that should have been the anime. That would have been fun. So it's things like that. I tend to like to see the difference in what the anime decided to do compared to what the original source material had. And yeah, slowly but surely, I'm trying to make my way through Tokyo Ghoul, cause Megan's not gonna stop getting at me about reading if I don't. So I have to. But yeah, that's what I've been at least attempting to read lately.
I actually read the first couple volumes of that a while back, part because I needed material for my holiday roundup, and I was really impressed with the first volume, particularly the way the mangaka really captures the protagonist's just despair, not just in the text but in the art. They just mesh together so well. Absolutely, because for those who aren't familiar with Tokyo Ghoul, which I don't know how, there might be a few who aren't, because it's pretty much one of the more popular franchises right now. Mm-hmm. The story basically is this lead character, Kaneki. He's a human, but he goes on this date with this girl who he finds out to be a ghoul. This accident happens, the female ghoul dies, and he's in a severe condition, but her organs are transplanted into him. So he becomes a half-ghoul. So now he's in between these two worlds, both the human and the ghoul world. So he has a foot in both. And in the first volume, particularly, when he comes to this conclusion that he is now part ghoul, oh my god, that is just like... I mean, the anime, they did this, but it's really, like, if you read it in the manga, it's kind of more, like, gut-wrenching. Yeah, visceral.
Yep, visceral and more gut-wrenching, like, seeing how it was drawn and how it was originally intended. It's like, oh my god. Like, I felt more sympathy for Kaneki, a hell of a lot more sympathy when I was reading the first volume of the manga compared to the anime series. Like, it's one of the few times where a manga has actually kind of, like, captured my attention like that. And I don't read manga often, which helps, but, yeah, I think the only one that's ever really captured my attention in that kind of way would be Solanin, I think. Solanin made me cry by the end when I was reading it, so...
Wow.
Two different experiences, sure, but they both captured my attention in some form of fashion. But, yeah, slowly but surely, I'm gonna get my way through Tokyo Ghoul. Because Megan is not gonna stop until I finish reading all of it.
So what about you, Walt? What are you reading?
Me? I read a very interesting manga. So, of course, Tropic of the Sea is by Satoshi Kon, and I actually ended up picking up Tropic of the Sea during a book sale at Barnes & Noble. Buy two manga, get one free. So it's like, I was just looking at what else there was out, and I ended up finding another work by Satoshi Kon. And so I decided, I like Satoshi Kon's work. I'm a fan of Paranoia Agent. I like Perfect Blue. Let's give both of these series a try. And so, of course, we're going to talk about Tropic of the Sea when we get into our main topic, but I want to talk a little bit about Satoshi Kon's opus and why it might have wiggled its way onto my favorite manga list. Because this is a fantastic story. So, the story is I'm totally reading the back of it, by the way, because I don't want to butcher this.
I have to make this accurate.
Exactly. It is the tale of Chikara Nagi, a creator under pressure to finish his latest graphic novel, Resonance, who finds that the harshest critic of the shocking ending he's planning for is the character who will have to die in it. Nagi's strengths and weaknesses as a creator are tested beyond their limits as his present and his past, and the worlds of his manga and of reality become the level of a maze he may never escape. So yeah, it is the most meta manga I've ever read in my life.
That's
As
a
this-
summary.
That sounds like someone mixed a Satoshi Kon movie with adaptation, so that definitely sounds interesting and very much in his vein.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Like-
definitely thinking of Perfect Blue when I first read that in the bookstore. Like, so basically, this guy's realities are kind of overstepping. That kind of reminded me of what they did with Perfect Blue, how the realities of the actress and the pop idol kind of intermingled.
But here's the thing with Kon in general, really. That's one of the big themes he always tends to go with, is the fine line between reality and, like, this fictional, like, imaginary world. Perfect Blue has done it, Paprika has done it, Paranoia Agent has done it, Tokyo Godfathers has done it to an extent, Millennium Actress has done it. So this is not the first time that you see this among Kon's work, but at least kind of, I guess, in terms of his manga, because when we talk about Tropic of the Sea is one of the outliers, I guess you could say, in terms of
Definitely.
Tokyo.
Yeah.
Definitely.
In terms of
This is
Kon's,
also
like, regular
probably
themes.
maybe his third attempt into this. I don't know when Memories came out because
Memories was 94. Because this was
then this was his third attempt. Then
Yep, because this was a year or two before Perfect Blue, and Perfect Blue was 96. I
Okay.
believe
oh what?
Memories
Oh,
was
then this was
94.
his second because I thought Perfect Blue was 94 actually. So
No,
this
no,
is
no.
his second attempt into this.
No, I stand corrected. Perfect Blue is 97. Memories is 95. So I was close. They are 2 years apart, just I got the
Ooh.
wrong years.
You see, can one of you who can go on the internet find out like the release dates of this manga against Memories? Because I'm
Opus?
curious. Because
Opus, right?
Opus. Because this might have actually been his first dive into this forte then, depending on release
Okay.
dates.
Opus was released between 1995 and 1996. So this was around the time of Memories.
Yeah.
Around the time of Memories, but before Perfect Blue.
Okay. But anyway, back onto the manga. So, you have our main character, Chikara, and first off, I love how he handles just everything about the world of the manga. How just every little detail, just kind of feeds into that very meta style of the story. How, like, because a background is drawn in a distance, if you walk into that distance, it's basically just doodles and very small drawings. That was fascinating. It really helped blur the line while reading the story. That was just the first thing I noticed. The biggest selling point of this is just the character interactions between Chikara and the characters of his manga, the heroes of it, the villains of it, everyone who finds out that they are manga characters and how they react to it. And just the relationships that form, not just between the characters because of that, but between the creator and his characters. So, because it's very clear in the beginning he just is enjoying the fame that the series has brought him. And it's very clear as the story goes on that in his past, he never really cared about how much suffering he's put his characters through. And I find that funny because you do see that a lot in shonen, in seinen, in all kinds of series where you put these main characters through dozens, if not hundreds, of just varying trials, difficulties, making them suffer. Hell, I just watched the season finale of Ruby, and while I won't spoil that was probably the darkest place that show has ever gone. Ever. And that's something you don't think of because that's just something to build tension, and you don't think of what that actually means for the characters. Like, in the world they live in, just how much that truly hurts. And that's something the creator has to learn for himself. And it really comes to a very interesting answer. But there's one more thing I want to mention about this manga, and that's all I want to say, because I really want people to go out and read this. There was technically no ending because the magazine that this was published in was canceled during its run. So it wasn't until after Satoshi Kon's death that they found a last chapter for this series.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it was published. It's published. It's available in the current collection. You can find in bookstores now.
Oh, nice.
It officially... Okay, you guys agree that, just from what I've told you, this series is pretty meta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, here's the thing.
It takes it to the next level.
It
It goes beyond meta into a level of meta that I didn't know existed.
Like, I'm looking at Right Stuff right now because I looked it up. Like, the cover, because I'm guessing what you have is the omnibus, like, one with the red cover.
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm looking at the description that they have about it, and the last sentence of that description, it's a short little description. Before he became a director, he was a manga artist. An opus is an omnibus collection of a 2-volume manga from 1996, created by Kon on the eve of his first film.
Ah.
Yep.
So that last part of that sentence was interesting when I was just looking that up. So
there is a little bit of an afterword in a couple paragraphs. It does talk about how Kon was kind of doing a balancing act between this and Perfect Blue at the time.
makes sense.
Yeah, and how he talked about how even though he didn't get a chance to really finish the story the way he wanted to, it was almost kind of a blessing that he was able to just end this series just so he could focus on Perfect Blue.
I mean, that's reasonable, all things considered, because Perfect Blue was, like, his major directorial debut, so of course you have to put a lot of work into that.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so I really liked Opus. I thought it was beautifully written, and the artwork was really good, too. So, a lot of little details, and kind of very much, like I described, kind of poking fun at just kind of ways some artists will kind of cheap out on, like, backgrounds and such.
Is that Barnes & Noble manga sale still going on right now, do you think?
No, that was back
Sadly, no.
in January.
Damn it! Because I was like, because I'm gonna have a car tomorrow. I could go to Barnes & Noble and buy this. Damn it! 'Cause I want it so bad now, because I never even heard of it. Well, that's going to stay in my saved stuff for Right Stuff right now.
Yep. But yeah, I love Opus. And now let's talk about our other Satoshi Kon manga, shall we?
Yay!
Indeed.
Tropic of the Sea. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't enjoy this as much as Opus, but then again, Opus was kind of fantastic.
Well, like I was saying before, like, because if you know anything about Kon, he has very distinct themes, and, like, themes that he tends to use with his work. Like, again, blurring the line between reality and fantasy, delving inside the human mind and the human psyche, a bit of Japanese satire here and there. I mean, that's basically Tokyo Godfathers in a nutshell. But Tropic of the Sea, it doesn't really have any of that.
Yeah, it's basically an 80s coming-of-age, like, teen movie in manga form.
Kind of,
yeah, I'd agree with that. It really is.
Because, yeah, it's, these kids and the town teaming up against this, terrible yuppie that wants to destroy the town in the name of profit, and then there are fights and chase sequences, and everything turns out
And a little
well.
bit of supernatural mysticism thrown in just because.
Because mermaids.
yes.
Yeah, because mermaids.
So basically, to summarize this story, in, I guess, a more detailed way.
Yes.
It's the story of this small country village, essentially, where there's a legend that every 60 years, a mermaid will, like, essentially let the priests...
Lay an egg.
lay an egg and let the priests of the village care for it for 60 years. And if they treat it well and care for it and everything, the mermaids will basically give good blessings to the sea and make the sea bountiful for the village. So, this brings us to essentially our supposed quote-unquote present day, where we meet Yosuke, I think it is.
Yes.
Yep.
Yosuke and his father is the current priest of the shrine for the village. But his father has been working on helping a development plan with these big CEO bigwigs in order to take that tiny village and essentially turn it into something much more profitable for the village by making these huge condos and making it a big tourist spot and everything. And the egg that they have, it's close to the time, it's close to the 60 years before it has to go back. So the main thing is that there's a struggle between Yosuke's grandfather to an extent, and then these corporate bigwigs who all want possession of this egg because it's a very, very high value for different reasons, including magic healing powers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Grandpa's cancer got cured, of all things. But then at the same time, there's also this side story with the struggle between, again, these corporate bigwigs and the people of this village who do not want any part of this new development plan, and they don't want their lives to be basically torn apart.
Yeah, the conflict between Yosuke, his father, and Mr. Ozaki, the yuppie who comes in who wants to develop the town, kind of bleeds into the town itself, with everybody kind of taking sides and factions, and eventually all just devolving into a big fist fight. And then there's also the interpersonal conflict between Yosuke and his two friends, and I wish I could remember their names. Because there's a dweeby one who's the fisherman's son.
Yep, I think that's Tatsu or Taru or something like that. And then there's the female friend who comes to visit from the city. Her name is Nami.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just had a thought. It didn't occur to me when I was reading it, but of course her name is Nami.
Of course it is. But, where's the name? Now I'm looking for the guy's name.
Well, I'll just continue with thoughts.
Yeah.
I think one thing I did like about this series... I'm going to list one thing I like and kind of one thing I hate, because they're kind of the same thought. One thing I liked is that there was really no villain within the Yashiro's family, the family of priests, because it became very clear later on that the father had every good intention of trying to evolve the village into something bigger and better, because one, we learn further on, is because his wife wasn't able to get medical treatment because they didn't have a very good hospital. It was the whole village is painted as this very rural thing. It's very heavy on tradition. It's just a bunch of fishermen's families who have been there for generations. And so the father, he just wants like a better life for everyone. He just doesn't realize that, he's kind of fucking people over by doing this.
Yeah, because it's going too far.
Now back to something I hate, though. I hate that it actually did introduce the corporate bigwigs as villains. I feel like that didn't even need to be a thing.
I don't know. I can understand it being a thing, especially when this was written, because this was first released in 1990, so this is right near the very peak of Japan's economic boom, and so, yuppies everywhere. What I do like is that he wasn't the sort of yuppies you usually see in this sort of story, who are the kind of people who, light their cigars with $100 bills and kick puppies in their free time.
Yeah,
You're making it sound like Speed Grapher all of a sudden. I had flashback to the villain of Speed Grapher, like, smoking 100 yen bills. By the way, the guy friend, his name is Tetsu.
Oh, okay.
Tetsu is his name. I was close.
But yeah, he could have been so much worse. He's handled fairly deftly and fairly in a low-key manner, which is something you could say for the story as a whole, even with the supernatural elements of the mermaid. It's very down to earth. Yeah,
the mermaid almost wasn't a thing until kind of the egg started resonating. It really was just, and even then, it is very subtle. It's all about the big corporation versus the little village. And just, like, the big corporation trying to swoop in, make the village profitable for them. And it's very clear that that as much as they try to say they do, they don't give a damn about the little guy. And the little guy obviously gets that. But the priest is just so blinded with how things can be better for the village that he's not even seeing this. And he's not even seeing that it's tearing his family apart, because not only is his dad mad at him, but his son is to agree. But Yosuke is just kind of disaffected and just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, Yosuke is, for the most part, he kind of distances himself from the entire situation. Like, because what he's focused on throughout the course of it, it's brought up several times, entrance exams to get into college. And he's so focused on getting out of that small town. Which I kind of like the counterbalance, I have to say this, between him and Nami, because Nami has already been outside of the village, and she's been in the big city, but she's back because she comes to realize, the big thing for her, she's realized, like, she had a much more appreciation for this small rural town after she had gone and left.
Also, she is seriously thirsty for Yosuke, and Yosuke is oblivious to all of her moves.
Yes! Oh my god,
great.
yes.
And
the worst part is, I think it's hinted at that the only reason she is because she was obviously dumped or broken up with by another guy in the city.
Yeah, she mentions it outright at one point.
Yeah, I think, and possibly it was, she got cheated on or something. I think that's what it's kind of hinting at, too.
It's not said outright, but I believe that.
It's kind of hinted at. But, I can kind of relate to Nami in some of those ways, because, I'm originally from a small friggin' town in the middle of nowhere, and now that I live at least relatively close to one of the larger cities, I kind of at least, every time I go home to visit my family, I at least appreciate how small and quiet it can be. Some of the things I never really noticed before, and all the things I wanted to escape from, I have a better appreciation of it now, so I can relate to Nami in that sort of way.
I can also kind of relate to them, but I grew up a farm kid, middle of nowhere, Western Illinois. But the thing is, I got the hell out as soon as I could, and I really didn't look back. There are things I also kind of miss the quiet of the countryside, but on the other hand, oh god, I don't miss a lot of it at all. I don't miss everything about the countryside, but because me being I'm a city girl through and through, but it's just I also appreciate it at the quiet in the countryside and all the things that has at the same time. I just never came to appreciate it until after I left, just similar to Nami and her situation.
I've grew up, the first 20 years of my life, I grew up between Fort Lauderdale and Miami. So it was either big bustling city or crazy nightlife, pretty much between where I lived, whichever one I wanted to go see that time. So, and now I'm living in Orlando, and that's just it's not as quiet here. So I love the big city because of that. I'm more than happy to get out of here and go to the big city and hang out. So I guess in a way I'm kind of Yosuke in that term, because I would love to go to the city, live there for a while, get out of here.
Yeah, I guess to some extent, then we can kind of relate to some of these characters and their feelings
and their struggles. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I guess that's kind of one of the things that Kon does at least rather well with this one, is that he makes the characters rather relatable to some extent. To people, especially I can't say at least relatable in terms of now, 2016, but at least back in early 90s, you can see that it's rather relatable. There are some parts where it's relatable now, but
I'd say there's a certain timelessness to this sort of conflict. The details may differ, but a lot of the conflicts are still very much true today. I mean, both here and in Japan, as they ever were.
Yeah, it's one of those timeless tales of just the big guy versus the little guy. In this case, a corporation versus... In fact, that almost makes it more timeless in our current age, because corporations taking over little towns... Have you guys, and I feel this does relate to this article, have you guys read that article about how destructive it is for a Walmart to leave a small town?
I think I've heard about this in passing, but yeah, it's even worse than when Walmart comes to town.
It's Walmart comes to town, they close up all the little shops because the little shops can't compete with their prices.
Yep.
And then Walmart just leaves town because they can't make enough money there. And now you don't have the little shops, you don't have Walmart, you're literally left with nothing at that point.
That sounds about right.
And it kills communities. And in a sense, and mind you, this is not just, at this time of the recording, this isn't some thing. This was something I was hearing about on the radio a month ago. This is still very recent.
Yeah, this is
a story from 1990. We're still dealing with stuff like this in 2016. This is a very timeless tale.
Yeah, I mean, the whole situation with Walmart, it's been going on for months now. They've been closing down several stores, and it basically kind of destroys communities because they're so used to Walmart.
I mean, there's also just think about the fact that there are senators who have to fight on a government level to keep Walmarts open in their space, in their town, in certain towns.
Yeah.
Like,
Because
I
it's
know
something
for a
profitable.
fact, the one in Alaska, the one you might know because Pitbull was forced to go up there and do a concert. If you guys remember that little bit of trolling. But
That's awesome.
But that one's being closed, and that's the only convenience store for that town in miles. Because all the other, like, little family stores, they're gone because of Walmart. So I know for a fact there are some government officials in Alaska fighting to keep that Walmart open.
Speaking of timeless stuff, can we talk about the art? Because that, for me, is probably the most remarkable thing about the series. And the thing I noticed most is how big an influence Katsuhiro Otomo was on Kon at this point. Because for those of you who don't realize this, and we were actually talking about this just before we started, Kon got his break as a mangaka by working as an assistant for Katsuhiro Otomo while he was working on the manga for Akira.
Yep.
Yeah?
And
I would
yeah,
say, like,
if you look at these character designs, they are so Otomo.
Oh, yeah.
I say they're a mix of Otomo and probably Urasawa because I have, like, strong Master Keaton vibes coming off of some of these character designs, too. Like, and this, I don't know how long Urasawa has been doing manga, but, like, it could have been something he drew inspiration from or anything. But yeah, the Otomo, at least, I can definitely see, but a little bit of Urasawa, mostly because of Master Keaton, I can kind of see it in some of the characters.
Well, he did work on an episode of Master Keaton, so that there's a possibility.
This is also true.
Episode 15. No joke.
Honestly, I realized that he got influenced from the Kira guy the minute I realized the Easter egg among the character names.
Oh, Tetsu.
Did you guys not get that at first?
Which one?
The best
Tetsu.
friend, Tetsuo.
Oh, god damn it. Now you say it's been a while since I've watched Akira, so it's been a couple of years since I watched Akira.
Oh, I didn't
so
even think about that. But also,
Yeah.
I've got to say that the backgrounds in this series are
Oh, they're
fucking
beautiful.
masterful.
They are gorgeous. They're so detailed.
I've talked about backgrounds several times in several reviews because I love backgrounds in manga because like they help fit the scene so well when done right, and this manga does it. They're beautiful, like the big cityscapes, even underwater. Like you would think there isn't much there. Oh my god, it's beautiful.
The underwater scenes are just something else because it's really hard to capture the sensation of swimming. It's like you go too far, it can just look like floating in space, but it's hard to capture kind of the weight of being in water, but also the weightlessness of it, and Kon captures it really well. I'd be really curious.
I'm looking at it right now. I love everything about it. Just the little subtle shift into darkness as you go from the top of the page to the bottom. All the little fish kind of moving around in it.
I'd be really curious to know what town or towns he used as reference on this, because there had to be something.
There had to be something. And like, even talking about the mermaids, actually.
Oh yeah.
They are so detailed. Like, I'm looking at the one specifically of the baby one that comes out of the egg.
And it looks like a
Yosuke
newborn.
Yes.
Yeah.
It actually looks like a squishy little raisiny newborn.
Yeah, not quite your typical manga or anime character design, but like a legitimate newborn baby.
And
Yeah.
I really like
So
the mermaid
detailed.
design in general, because we just see teases of it all throughout the story, just this flash of this huge sweeping tail, and then when you actually see it, it to a degree it looks like your standard mermaid, lady on top, fish below, but she's got an almost like granitic texture to her, like something old and ancient.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the main point, considering the story of the whole mermaid thing in general. Like, every 60 years, you bring the baby mermaid back to its mom, basically.
Here's the thing, though. Reading through the series, I thought, oh, and so the baby must grow up into the new mother. But but like when you see the mermaid, you realize, like, just through artwork alone, you realize this is the same mermaid that started this tradition. Like that's just the feel that he gives off.
That's true. Like, because like Megan said, there's a certain texture that makes her seem much more ancient than what you would normally see. Like, from what you would normally see with stereotypical animated or even manga or drawn mermaids. It's
like your
very,
standard
very...
cliche mermaid, like,
Yes.
Ariel-style mermaid.
Yeah.
Like, this is a much more ancient and kind of, like, to an extent, probably more revered looking
Oh,
mermaid,
yes.
if I just describe
like
it.
something off an old, like, ancient, like something that was chiseled into a wall almost.
Yeah. Like, for probably... Because this is one of the first manga that Kon has done. Like, published himself. Like, this is very... Like, the artwork is so detailed. It's fantastic. Like,
And
even
apparently... I was going to say, apparently he worked himself sick, because if you read the afterword...
Yep.
The one he wrote in 1999, after he'd become a success, he talks about the fact that he worked himself to the point where he got hepatitis A making this manga.
Oh, God. I didn't know that.
Mangakas truly suffer for their art.
Everyone suffers for their art. That's nothing new.
Just kind of just a little trivia. Tropic of the Sea was in fact his big manga debut.
Yeah, his big debut, essentially. Cause,
The only thing he did before that was a doujin from 1984.
Wow.
Yeah, a doujin, it was, Toriko, 1984.
Yep, which funny enough is in Dream Fossil, which you talked about, Megan.
Yep.
Oh, yes, which is a short story collection for those of you not aware.
Yep, which Toriko, it earned him the runner-up spot for the 10th annual Tetsuya Chibi Awards held by Konosha Magazine. And it was actually after that he became Otomo's assistant from there. So... And this is all while he was in college, by the way, because he graduated from college in 1987.
Yep.
And I was going to say, it's actually a good point you bring up how this was his first work, because you can kind of tell in the way he paces things. It's a little uneven, particularly at the beginning. It's almost a little too slice of life, and then all the action is like in the last third.
Yeah, and
then
again,
it's like fist fights, car chases down the beach, tsunamis!
yes.
Yep.
Like, everything happened. And again, bringing this point up again, it's not the typical Kon that we're all used to. So, because this is, again, one of his earliest pieces of work, and he hasn't even really probably even thought about those themes that he normally goes with at that time. So, it's a different side to Kon, really, and his style and his work in general, compared to what we're so used to.
This is the beginnings of a writer that would eventually go on to adapt very different themes, adapt very different ideals, but in the end, this is a stepping stone to that. And in a way, it's so weird that this almost contains none of the ideas he would eventually end on.
Yeah.
But it's still a stepping stone, and a very decent one at that.
Absolutely, because after that, probably the next major project he did...
World Apartment Horror, I think it was.
World Apartment Horror, which was 1991, but then a few background layout things before he got to do Magnetic Rose from the film Memories, in which he was a writer, as well as did was a background designer and layout, and I think...
Yep.
You can't quote me on this because I have not watched Memories, but I think Magnetic Rose was kind of the start of those common themes that you see in Kon, which he eventually, again, brought into Perfect Blue.
Yeah, no, Magnetic Rose was definitely blurred the lines between reality and fantasy the way all of Kon's works afterwards would feature. And I have not seen World Apartment Horror, so I cannot say for certain, but I do agree. I think that was the first
World
thing.
Apartment Horror because I need to track it down. World Apartment Horror is a live action film, which Otomo directed and Kon actually wrote the script for.
Really? I didn't know it was live action.
It's live action, but because when I did a top 10 video about 10 Satoshi Kon works, as an anniversary for his death a few years ago, this is one of the ones I found. And based on the trailers, it's more of like a campy horror kind of thing. So I can probably see maybe some of the more Japanese satirical pieces that you can commonly see in Kon's work, like starting to develop here in World Apartment Horror, compared to the other more well-known ones, like the psychological and the blurring of the lines and all that stuff. That's my guess. I'd have to find World Apartment Horror somehow and watch it, though.
Yeah, I wonder if how much a person would like this would depends on precisely how they approach it as part of Kon's career. Like, if you're looking at it from the end of it back, then some might see it as disappointing because, oh, it's not like all trippy and shit like his, masterpieces are. But if you look at it, in context as, the beginning of a career, then you can appreciate the good qualities it does have.
Right.
And in a way, you know what, I would actually say, with the whole fantasy of the mermaids almost being subtly inserted into a very realistic story of the corporation versus the little village, I'd almost say this is very subtly already walking into what he would eventually, I wouldn't say perfect, but begin to work on with Magnetic Rose.
Because I can see that, a sort of magical realism.
You have the fantasy of these mermaids kind of mixing with a real world, with the reality of a real entity trying to take over this town.
Yeah, I can kind of see that, and then to some extent with some of the characters, I mean, because you have, with Yosuke's family in particular, actually, you have the grandfather who has
seen the mermaid,
and who fully believes in this story and is very, very respectful. You have the dad who doesn't believe anything of it. He
was born in between mermaid visits. He's never had the chance to really see this myth for himself.
Yep.
And while his wife was very into it, he was not. He was all about science and logic and whatnot.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then you have Yosuke, who's kind of in between for the majority of the story. He's not sure whether to believe it or not. Like, he believed it as a kid, and we come to find out because it is his mother who kind of instilled it in him. But after she dies, he kind of loses that, I don't want to say faith in mermaids, but
it's innocence.
Let's fully embrace it for what it is. He starts to doubt their existence because, let's face it, pop culture insists that it's just a myth. It's fiction. To him, it's just like he applies. It's a normal thing, really. You don't. If something doesn't exist, but you think you saw it, you'll turn to anything else that seems more logical in your head, rather than accept the truth that's in front of you until it's just blatantly staring you in the face, like it does near the end of the series.
And even a little bit before we have the appearance of the mermaid, Yosuke suddenly remembers something rather important. That being, at the time that his mother passed away, he was drowning in the ocean and his mom was trying to save him. What ended up saving him was not his mother, but one of the mermaids.
And this act is basically repeated about somewhere around the 2/3 point in the book.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because,
and that's kind of his tipping point, the point where he goes from just, whatever, to believing and actively fighting back, trying to preserve this tradition before it's too late.
Yeah, because what was that kind of prompted it? I think they were just going. Him and his friends, they were kind of just together, exploring. He was sitting on the boat because for the longest time he was not a fan of swimming in the ocean. He was kind of scared of it to an extent, because of this tragic, post-traumatic moment that he had. And the mermaid just all of a sudden just, screws up their ship, knocks him over into the water for some reason, but then he's saved by her. And then it's that point where he starts remembering what actually happened when his mom died. And again, like Megan said, it's the tipping point that makes him go, okay, mermaids are a thing, and we have to respect them, or else our livelihood is essentially ruined.
Yep.
Goodness, is there really anything left to say about Tropic of the Sea?
We've really covered everything. And by the way, I'm like super glad we like really got into a more serious conversation about the 40-minute mark, because before that we were really just stumbling around the dark there. So let's go ahead and just list off.
It worked its way around.
Yeah, it did. So let's go ahead and just give our final thoughts. Megan.
I would rate this a 7 out of 10. It's not a masterpiece, but it's a very good manga. Like, it's thoughtful, and it's beautiful, and it's interesting, and even on its own, as well as part of a larger part of Kon's career. It's definitely one I would recommend.
Stephanie?
I'm also going to give it a 7 out of 10. For those who may or may not know, Satoshi Kon is actually one of my absolute favorite anime directors. So, first of all, reading a manga that he wrote, that's a new experience for me. But particularly reading something that that was one of his first works, and kind of seeing where he started out, and seeing something completely different than what I've known him for up until this point. It's very, very refreshing, and it also has me appreciate his entire career in a whole new way. And this story, while very simple and maybe slightly 90s, 80s camp of sorts to an extent, it's still a really good read, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. And I pretty much read through it today, so I enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, this if you want to know at least a little bit more about Kon before he became the well-known director that he is now, I would definitely give this a read. But so long as you know that this was before, like, Memories and Perfect Blue, and you keep that in mind, rather than just go into this manga blind.
Yeah, if you go into this expecting usual Kon, you are going to be gravely disappointed. Mm-hmm. As for what I would give this, I would say... Honestly, I'd say you guys hit right on the head, 7 out of 10. That's what I was thinking too, because truthfully, the story is very simplistic. It's very basic. Character motivations very simple. Overall, it's not that great a story, but it does do what it sets out to do well. And I would normally rate a story like this a 5 out of 10 if it was probably any other artist. Kon does such a fantastic job with the artwork in this series.
Absolutely.
It's almost worth the read for that alone. And that's what bumps it up to a 7 out of 10 for me. So that 7 out of 10 is all across the board. So, hey, triple lucky 7s.
Woo! That's 21 out of 30.
It's 7 out of 10.
Well, if you add everything up, though.
3 7 out of 10s is 7 out of 10, no matter how you look at it.
Up. I'm trying to do math, okay?
So this has been
math.
So this has been the second really good manga we've looked at in a row on Rainy Day Reading. This is kind of novel unto itself.
Oh, that's right, because you were here for X Day and you didn't have to read a Bitsu.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah, I think this is the second good manga at least the three of us have gotten together for, because Sweet Rain was a fun one.
Ah, true.
Well, yeah, Megan, you've done like every other episode of Rainy Day Reading so far, and it's going to keep going because I know you're scheduled for the end of March as well.
Yes.
Yeah, we've done Sweet Rain, X Day, and now Tropic of the Sea together.
Next time, though, it's not going to be quite so edifying, quite so classy.
Oh God, what are you guys stuck with next time?
Oh no, Megan's stuck with the good thing at the end of March. She's talking about what I gotta get Joe and someone else to tackle,
yes.
Which is going to be Kier Kier, the ecchi cheerleading manga from the creator of Princess Resurrection.
I have no words right now for this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cheer. The words cheer combined with Princess Resurrection. As someone who has watched the anime series for Heavy Storms, I have no words to figure out how that's gonna go.
Oh man, I don't know what direction that's gonna go, but it's gonna be fantastic.
Oh my God.
And no matter what, I will always take solace in the fact that it'll still be better than Jonathan thinks of Hungry Joker.
One of these days, I'll read Hungry Joker just to understand the goddamn joke.
I don't think you will, because I think only in Jonathan's mind it sucks that bad. Because I listened to him complain about it, and even I'm like, yeah, it's Flock shonen, but it's, like, not that bad.
But
it's
all
Jonathan
that
we're talking about here.
Exactly.
But all that will have to wait for next time.
Yeah, so, let's see. What is, Jonathan dropped that I can end this on?
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
Damn it, the chat doesn't exist anymore. I can't read any of Jonathan's wacky things.
Damn it!
Oh, well. Well, this is a really anticlimactic end.